Growing up abused and neglected has an almost universal effect of draining people of their innate power. You lose the sense that you are good or that you have agency to make anything good happen. And it takes a lot of will, a lot of resilience, and some luck to remember who you are and to stay connected to your natural sense of what is good, to know that you are good and it's worth working on yourself and worth trying to become more than you are right now. So what do I mean? Kinder, for example, more healed, closer to people, more connected, more structured in your life, more patient, more capable, more creative, more financially secure so you have choices and a little bit of mobility. Everyone wants these things, but when you've been traumatized, it has a way of disempowering your ability to accomplish them. The dysfunctional families where so many of us grew up may not have intended to blot out the good in you, but here's how that happens, okay? I want to outline 5 ways that growing up traumatized can disempower you, and then I'll talk about how to heal. Okay, so here's how it begins. Parents' behaviors, if not their actual put-downs of you, imprint you with a limited or negative vision of your future self. Your potential, your talent is neglected. It's undeveloped. It goes dormant. No one is there to guide you and push you along. You're left to your own devices to learn self-determination and persistence and follow-through. You can see why that's so hard, right? All right, the second way that dysfunctional families can leave you disempowered. Trouble at home isolated you and alienates you from other people. You hide. You learn not to stand up for yourself. You learn to check out, to give up, and put up or shut up. You know, you may have even been told that. You learn to resent. And this guarantees that you're going to be alienated from non-traumatized people who are, more or less happy and functional, who could have modeled realistic goals and healthy relationships for you. They could have offered opportunities for education and career, and maybe you got some of that in your life, but what you learned at home may have undermined that. Having no positive connections with people who are engaged with their potential in a positive way, it's not just about class and money, it's also very much about being around people who are hopeful and confident and who keep their heads together and who have social grace and who earn a living. And this is like medicine to a traumatized and demoralized kid. I know it was for me. Did you have these people in your life? Did you have it at home? When you met people like that, were you able to feel comfortable with yourself around them, or did you have to avoid them because they were so triggering for you? Number 3, in the ways that dysfunctional families can leave you disempowered is now that you're alienated from the people who are like hopeful and have goodwill and, to try for things, what's left are all the other people, the people who are troubled, just like your family, who feel cynical and stuck and who are very prone to discourage you if you were to step up and shine a little bit. That's a phenomenon that happens with people who are hurting because it threatens them, that they would have to face that they also are meant for more in their lives. And that's painful when you can't do it, when you feel like you've failed, like there's nothing you can do. So when you're standing in front of a troubled person like that, shining like a bright light, proving that shining is possible, well, a healthy person feels happy for you and happy to be around you, but a disempowered person compares themselves to you and feels bad about themselves. And all they can think to do is blame you for the way they feel bad. And so they pressure you to feel bad too. There's a lot of peer pressure, not to raise your hand in class, not to show off, not to brag. And this happens to everyone who takes a step up. It's as if there's a nefarious force. That's what I call it. When you move up, it comes and tries to pull you back down. And it might be coming from other people, or sometimes it just comes from within. And at first, it feels like something good, like, oh, thank goodness, I can just relax and quit trying so hard to fit in. Because it's hard to stand strong and it's easy to give in. It's easy to just give up and let go and be resentful. But if you do, that only increases the instability and the drama and the loss and the isolation that you were trying to leave behind. And you start thinking, Well, what's the point? People suck. I suck. What was I even thinking trying to heal my trauma and become something more than I am right now? But of course you have that thought. That's a good, healthy thought that's still there in you, ready to shine. Number 4, that the rough family past can leave you disempowered is you're vulnerable. When you doubt yourself and you're lonely, it becomes a lot more likely that you'll attach to a partner who is negative for you, who tears you down. You meet them and, they feel like home. It feels like love at first sight, but you know why that is. Because it is like home. It's like your family of origin. At least you think, though, there'll be someone to hang out with. And, just about everything that I've ever done that I regret, I did out of loneliness. So sometimes that temptation just to grab onto a relationship because it's there, it's strong, it's compelling. But when that kind of relationship continues, your unmet emotional needs, which is what all of us from dysfunctional families have, it will drive you to bond too quickly with someone you already know is not good for you. You end up talking yourself into it. What's the harm? I could do this for a while. We've all done it before. But then in comes more problems that limit your positive vision of your life. Your confidence takes another hit, and your social circle gets smaller and smaller. And it's one thing to go through this with your family of origin, but when your partner is someone who brings you down, that's how we pass it on to the next generation, okay? That's now generational trauma. A bad family situation, no support, and a repetition of the bad family dynamic with a partner. So at that point, this is the 5th way that the hard background can disempower you, your life choices become survival-based. Quick fix jobs, temporary places to live, short-lived relationships. Have you been through this? I have. I've been through it many times. I was exhausted. I was overwhelmed. My mind was scattered. I was depressed and I was afraid. And I wasn't very in touch with myself. The problems were too big. But sometimes I'd lay awake at night with like this gnawing feeling inside that, I've put together a life, but this isn't right. There's supposed to be more. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that I was meant for something better, for more. And I was, and you are too. So how can you overcome the damage to who you really are that made you feel and believe yourself to be less than so that you can become all that you're meant to be? All right, this is my experience. Somewhere inside, we all have a sense of this fulfilled version of ourselves, the ideal version who is safe and happy and accomplished and loved and loving. And even if you don't know how to become that person yet, the fact that you yearn for it means that in your mind, the ideal is part of you. Do you have that? The ideal. And I used to have a vague sense that I was, screwing up somehow, that I was meant to do more with my life than I was able to manage at that time. I felt stuck. It felt so far away. And this went on for years, like 20 years. And off and on, things got hard in my life. If you've taken my courses, you've heard my story. I was a single mom. I was broke. I was drowning in CPTSD symptoms, but I didn't know what they were. And my hopelessness was kind of getting worse and worse, and I couldn't keep up with it. But even then, that sense that I was meant for something better, something more, it wouldn't leave me alone. And I was always yearning for it, as if it was just kind of right there, a little out of reach. I couldn't quite see it, but it was there, kind of, just like a feeling, a thought. Even when I was falling short by, yelling at people, ruining friendships and opportunities, getting mixed up with terrible relationships, abandoning myself. But I still knew there was more for me. And I'm hoping you know the feeling I'm talking about. I'm hoping it's there for you, even if it's like the tiniest little light in there. You carry it in you. It's there in each person, and it's trying to tell you something. Even when everything's hard and you're totally lost, it's like a faint little light showing you the right direction to go, where things can get better. Let's take a small thing. You snapped at someone today, and then maybe you beat yourself up a little bit about how you acted, feeling ashamed. It feels bad. But that fact that it bothers you is also something sacred about you. because what it signifies is that you have an innate sense of what kindness is. You recognize the other person's feelings and their dignity and their worthiness, even if they were, snappy with you right back. Part of you sees it. We all want to be recognized in this way, as dignified and worthy. And when you're too overwhelmed to recognize it in other people, you feel that pang of shame. And that is the best in you reminding you who you really are, even when the worst in you is coming out. That ideal is here, and it makes it uncomfortable for you to fall short of what you know you're meant for, who you really are. In this case, kind. That ideal is in there, and it makes it uncomfortable for you to fall short of what you know you're meant for, what you know is right. In this case, to be kind, to use care with people. Now, this fact is a beautiful imprint on the human spirit, and it is in you. You may be struggling right now, but it's panging you, right? Bang, bang. It's showing you the way forward, who you can become. In fact, it's who you already are. Who you are can't be destroyed, but when you grow up in a dysfunctional family, especially with abuse and neglect, you can lose access to that. You were born with a great deal of power, but what we see so often in traumatized people is disempowerment. Like a blank imagination, a turning away from what is good, even when it's right in front of you. The power just drains out of you, and there's a catastrophic loss of potential when this happens, for the time being, because you can heal. You can get your power back. You can become re-empowered by healing your trauma symptoms and changing your life. Now, you hear that word empowered, and the word kind of bugs me because mostly it's used by people with a savior complex, saying they empowered someone else to become the way they thought they needed to be. But really, you empower yourself. People can take certain aspects of your power, they can take your material goods, they can take your freedoms. And I know that has happened to many, many of you. It happened to me. But healing means that in whatever outer circumstances you find yourself, you have access to your innate power from within, your power of discernment, your power of imagination, your power to recognize truth and change your mind and create a life. Your innate power comes from inside. It comes from freeing yourself, or mostly freeing yourself, of trauma-driven thinking. And the trauma-driven beliefs and emotions that flit through your mind and heart all day that are echoes of the bad thing that happened in the past, you free yourself. Fear, I'm no good. Fear, nobody likes me. Fear, I can't focus. Fear, I don't work hard enough. And fear, I work too much. And fear, it's too late. And fear, everybody has love but me. And these are the thoughts that I put down on paper twice a day, that kind of thing. I put it on paper twice a day and I ask for them to be removed. You can ask like I do, or you can release them. If you want to learn my techniques for how to exactly do this technique, I can show you. It's a free course. It's called The Daily Practice. You've probably heard me talk about it. It's always linked down in the description section and on my website. And it's easy to get to, and many, many people take it and enjoy it. Your trauma-driven thinking that this daily practice is helping with, it is what glues you to the disempowered version of yourself. It has to go. You make a little progress and then you fall back sometimes. But if the terrible things that were said and done to you are dominant in your life, like you keep thinking about them and talking about them and they define who you are at this point, that's going to keep you disempowered. What happened to you is real and it hurt you, but it does not define you. So when you begin to name the trauma-driven thoughts and decisions and behaviors, and especially the fears that you're carrying around and the resentments, something new can enter into your mind. Awareness of who you really are, that more that you have always sensed was possible. But you were afraid to hope for it or try for it. Trauma-driven thinking tricks you into thinking you have no choice, and it scares you into thinking that you can't leave terrible situations. When you have less fear and less resentment, that trauma-driven thinking clears away like a fog, right? And what appears are choices. You don't have to stay in some terrible job. You don't have to stay isolated forever. You don't have to keep putting up with abusive treatment. You may not know exactly what the alternative is or how to get there yet, but when your real self is alive and empowered, knowing that you deserve better, then that first step out of the problem becomes easier. And from there, the next step appears to you, and then the next one. And this is how healing works. One clumsy little step in the general direction of that little light, just healing a little at a time. With healing, you can see your next steps. Your choices appear on the horizon, and that well of innate power can fill up in you to act on those choices. It's one thing to see them, another to act. You need both. You need power to do both. Change happens with a series of small steps that you can take with a spirit of experimentation. That's a good way to do it. You think, I'm not totally sure that this is the right thing I'm choosing here. What happens if I say no to this choice in front of me? What happens if I say yes? Sometimes you have to learn by trying, right? What happens if I speak up when I have something to say? What do I do if I totally just mess everything up and choose the wrong thing? All of these are good actions. You have to crack some eggs to make an omelet, right? You have to make some choices, and then sometimes you have to back up and correct mistakes you made. But with support and tools, you can have the freedom and fluidity to keep making mistakes and trying things and have your successes and take feedback from them and learn and progress and get through that developmental delay that happened to you because of your dysfunctional upbringing and mature and become fulfilled. I call it a developmental delay because in the family of origin, you didn't get to try the things that were necessary for you to develop because you were living in survival mode, or you were getting put down, or there wasn't the money. Now you get to try. And yes, it's scary. And yes, there are risks. But here's what keeps you strong. Good tools. There are many good tools out there. And if you want to use the tool that helped me move out of that trauma-driven state that I was in for decades, it's the daily practice. Sign up for that. Seriously. It's always down below. I'll point to it at the end of this video and you can click on it right there. It really is free. And if you sign up, you can join me in free Zoom calls where we use the techniques together and I answer questions. And it is an incredible experience for me every 2 weeks when I lead those calls. Hundreds of people come. These calls are the great joy of my life. I would love to meet you there. You'll also need support from people in your life who are not part of your trauma-driven world, but part of your healing world. People who are walking the path of healing just like you. Ideally, you want them walking the same path so that you can support each other in trying to apply lessons that you're learning. Some people do that in 12-step programs. We have that here at Crappy Childhood Fairy in the membership community. That is something you might want to check out. I can't say enough good things about the value of being in a group of people who get it, of people you can turn to and say, you know, I set a goal for myself to try to not call this man, and can I get your help? You know, I just feel like I'm going to do it. Help is available. My healing started when I started going to a 12-step fellowship 29 years ago. And you know, at that time, I had alienated all my friends, and everybody needs friends. I needed a place where I could just hang out, where I had somewhere to go. I had a lot of crying to do. I wanted to talk a little bit about what happened, and I maybe wasn't tuned in at first that this is what I needed, but I needed to listen. It was so helpful to me to listen to other people working out their own problems, working that 12-step program. So I then worked the program, and pretty soon I was one of the people comforting the new people. It's been a very positive thing for me. And meetings are available online. They're available in major cities and small cities. And, you know, I hope you'll give it a try. Most people who would be interested in Crappy Childhood Fairy qualify for at least one 12-step program. So I know a lot of traumatized people really don't have cash, and that's why I'm emphasizing free tools and communities here in my programs. The daily practice call, 12-step programs. Support is available if you're ready to reach for it. Now, people complain sometimes that in my videos I describe problems, but I don't describe the solution. So I gave you a little bit here. If you're like me, you know, you don't want to hear a bunch of platitudes about this, like you just need to love yourself like everybody else. You know, that never helped me. Or, you know, hey, come on, everybody's traumatized. Get over yourself. If only, right? So a lot of what people told me would be helpful was vague, and it didn't mean anything to me. And when I lacked the power to go, you know, do the research and change my life and find out what would work, it was so helpful when somebody came in and just pointed to something that was free, that was likely to work. That's what you can do here. Just keep watching the videos if nothing else. I've got your back. I'm notoriously practical. And when it comes to healing, I walk people step by step through practical ways to do it. There's so much to say about the solution. So check out my programs if you want to go deeper, or just watch the videos. Learn what you can today. Take the free course if you really want to take a next step. You can access that right here, and I will see you very soon.